Have you ever wondered what's really driving your biggest life choices? I mean, we tell ourselves it's logic or strategy or our values, but what if it's something else? What if there are these invisible forces, these fears we don't even say out loud that are quietly pulling all the strings? Let's get into it.
Yeah, we're masters at disguising them, aren't we? We'll call a fear being responsible, or we'll wrap it up in faith, or we'll just call it being practical. But way down deep, underneath all that justification, there's often a quiet, primal fear sitting right in the driver's seat of our lives. I was having one of those deep, late-night conversations with a friend a while back, the kind that just rattles you a little. We were talking about all the big stuff, faith, God, the universe, and I just kind of threw this question out there. I said, what if at the end of it all, we just don't know? Now, I was kind of bracing for an argument, maybe even a little judgment, but his reaction wasn't angry at all. He just got this really serious look, this incredible weight in his eyes, and he said something that completely flipped the whole conversation on its head. He just said, "Don't you remember, you're going to die?" And wow, it wasn't a threat. For him, it was a boundary. The fact of his own death was a very real reminder not to question things too much, because one day he might have to answer for it. And that just stopped me in my tracks. And I realized, for him, that fear of death acts like a wall. It contains his beliefs. But for so many other people, that exact same fear becomes a ticking clock. It's this urgent push to build something, to create, to live as fully as possible. And for others, it's a filter, a way to realize you just shouldn't sweat the small stuff. It's the same core fear, but it creates completely different lives. And here's the thing, it's not just about death. It turns out there are a handful of these primal fears just running in the background of all our big decisions, shaping how we love, how we work, even what we believe. Today, we're going to put a name to them. And hey, if this is already resonating with you, do us a quick favor and hit like on this explainer, and definitely subscribe to Project Human to keep going on this journey with us. All right, so let's pull back the curtain and name these invisible architects. There's this idea in psychology that says underneath all of our little day-to-day anxieties, worrying about a deadline or weird text, there are just a few massive root fears. And really, it all boils down to 5. Just 5 primal fears that almost everything else can be traced back to. So, first up is the one we started with, the fear of death. This is the big one, right? The ultimate existential dread of just not being here anymore, of complete annihilation. Number 2 is the fear of losing control. This is that deep gut-level terror of being trapped, helpless, or just powerless over your own life. It's about losing your autonomy. Third, we have the fear of abandonment. This is our ancient social brain just screaming at the thought of being left behind, of being totally unloved and alone in the world. Then there's number 4, the fear of humiliation. This one is all about our ego. It's that fear of being exposed, of being judged and rejected by our tribe, that feeling of losing face. And finally, number 5, the fear of pain. I mean, this is about as primal as it gets. It's that instinctual, biological drive to avoid suffering, whether that's physical, mental, or emotional. Okay, so those are the big 5, but how do we get from these kind of abstract ideas to the real world? Well, these fears aren't just concepts. They are woven into the choices we make every single day. Let's take a look at how they actually show up. So let's circle back to that conversation I had. My friend's lens for the fear of death was obedience. Don't ask too many questions because a final judgment is coming. But someone else, feeling that exact same fear, might put on a lens of urgency, feeling this deep need to build a legacy. And yet another person uses it as a filter, deciding that if life is this short, then petty little arguments are just a waste of time. Or think about the fear of abandonment. It almost never shows up and says, "Hi, I'm the fear of being alone." Instead, it whispers in your ear about needing safety or security. And it can absolutely push you to stay in a relationship, not because it's a great fit, but just because it's an escape from being lonely. And what you end up with is a connection that might look fine from the outside, but just feels hollow. We see this play out constantly with the fear of humiliation, especially at work. You've got one person who stays in a dead-end job they've totally outgrown. And why? Because the fear of trying something new and failing, of what other people might think or say, is just paralyzing. That's the play it safe lens. But then you have another person facing that exact same fear, and they choose a different lens: vulnerability.
They're willing to risk looking a little foolish to pursue real growth because they've realized that staying stuck is actually the bigger failure.
So here's the thing, and this is really the whole point. We don't need to conquer these fears. I mean, they're part of what makes us human. The real goal is to see them, to actually put a name to them. And in that moment of recognition, we take back our power to choose.
It's a pretty simple three-step process, really. First, you just have to see the fear that's hiding behind your reasonings. Second, you name it. Say, oh, okay, this is the fear of humiliation, or this is the fear of abandonment. And then third, you get to consciously choose your lens. You get to decide how you're going to respond to it.
And that right there is the core takeaway of this entire explainer. The fear itself isn't the real problem. It's the automatic, unconscious lens you're looking at it through that's actually shaping your life. You change the lens, and you change everything. So let's bring this all home. This isn't just some interesting psychological theory. This is about the real decisions that you are facing in your life, maybe even right now.
The poet Rumi gave us this absolutely beautiful piece of guidance. He said, "Don't move the way fear makes you move. Move the way love makes you move." So what if instead of letting fear call the shots, you chose to act from a place of love or curiosity or courage? The fear might still be in the passenger seat, but it doesn't have to have its hands on the wheel.
So I'll leave you with this. Think about one big decision that's on your mind right now. Try to strip away all the stories, all the justifications. What core fear is sitting there quietly underneath it all? And once you find it, once you can name it, you can ask yourself the most powerful question of all. Who do you want to be in its presence?